Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday evening Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club meeting. My name is Rick Starr. I'm the Sergeant at Arms. It's my pleasure to introduce the president of our club, Mr. Louis Denbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant at Arms. Welcome, everyone, to our meeting for tonight. We meet every Tuesday at 7:45 at the Club Room in Hy-Vee. That's right near aisle 13, the ice cream aisle. So think ice cream, smile when you have ice cream, and then smile when you come to our Toastmasters Club. I'd like to read the mission of our Toastmaster Club. The mission of our club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. We are a non-discriminatory club. Everyone is welcome if you're 18 years of age and above, and as long as you are able to discharge your duties as a member of the club. Now, before we go any further, cell phones, yes, we all have them. And let's all do the same thing and mute them so no one will be disturbed while they're speaking tonight. I don't see any guests tonight. Speaking of guests, we thank you all for watching at home. Fantastic. I get stopped by people all the time. They say, I saw you on television, Toastmasters. But you know what? I would really love it if some of you who are watching at home would occasionally come in to visit us in the club room here at Hy-Vee. Come live and see what we're all about. It's a wonderful experience. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our esteemed Toastmaster of the evening, Jean Simonton Craig. Yay!
We're going to go ahead and announce our role players and have them describe what they're going to be doing tonight to keep the meeting on track and organized. First, I'd like to hear from our grammarian, Monty Condon.
Good evening. I am tonight's grammarian. It is my job as the grammarian to listen to the language used by members in the club, not only as they give a speech, but also in the different roles. Whatever language is used by any member, I'm going to keep track of. And it's my job to keep track of exceptionally good or poor uses of English grammar and to make corrections. At the end of the meeting, I will give a brief report. I also am going to introduce the word of the day. We have paramount. Paramount is an adjective. It means supreme, top, chief, or of the greatest importance or significance. An example of this in a sentence would be, the Supreme Court is the paramount court of the land. Another sentence example would be, the objective assigned to us was paramount to the success of the entire plan. I'll be listening for use of word of the day in tonight's meeting. I'll make note of that and I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
Great. Now we'd like to hear from Luis, our timer for the evening.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I'll be in charge of timing everybody tonight. And time is very much a paramount thing that needs to be kept in place for the meeting to flow smoothly. Time in order and those things. So I'll be timing the table topics, which are from 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I will turn the light to green. 1 minute and a half is going to turn yellow. And 2 minutes is going to turn red, which is time we'll have 30 seconds. Every time that I turn the light red, you're going to have 30 seconds to wrap up your speech. For the speeches, it's going to be 5 to 7 minutes. So at 5 minutes, it's going to turn green. At 6 minutes, it's going to turn yellow. And at 7 minutes, it's going to turn red. For the tabletop evaluators, it's going to be 2 to 3 minutes. 2 minutes green, 2 minutes and a half yellow, 3 minutes red. Speech evaluators is also 2 to 3 minutes, so the same applies. Just for the tabletop evaluators. That's it. I'll give a speech at the end of the talk.
And our lights are working, Mr. Timer? They are working?
It should be working.
Okay, just want to make sure we're good.
It's an icebreaker, so it's slightly different times.
Ah, yes. So Luis, just was pointed out that our speaker tonight is doing an icebreaker, so that's going to be a 4 to 6 minutes.
4 to 6.
Just when you do your timing, so 4, green, 5, yellow, red. Okay, good. Yes. All right, thank you very much. That was really good. Our ah counter tonight is Annette. Please tell us about your role.
What he said, he's listening for good uses of the language. I'm listening for bad uses of the language. If you want to be a good speaker, it is paramount that you don't use filler words like and but and well. And just pause. So I'm going to be counting all the filler words. You know what they are, and I will give a report at the end too.
No, I love hearing filler words, so would you just remind us what they are?
Like, you know, so I already said some of it. And a false start, it's like you forget what you're going to say. Make a face.
Kind of, you know, sort of. All right, all good. So you have those ideas, and Annette's going to be on the
I
case.
want to say that the words and but and well are fine if they're used in the context.
Yeah.
If you say apples and oranges, I'm not going to count that. It's just if you pause and you start a sentence like and you just kind of have a run-on speech.
That's right. That's good. And I just want to make sure you got credit for your use of paramount, because I know Monty was working. Monty got that one? Okay, great.
And you just used it too. So.
No, I didn't use it. It is of paramount importance, however, that the grammarian hears the usage of the word. Okay. We will later have our general evaluator, Art Atkinson, who will run the evaluation portion of the meeting. Our greeter and our joke master is Will Burns, who will be giving us a joke. And then we'll be collecting our ballots. Louis will help with that. All right, good. On to our main course, our speaker for tonight. To read the objectives for Sandy Magrum's speech is Stephanie Chambers. Oh, sorry. Boom, boom. Not Stephanie Chambers, yes, exactly. Move my eyes down the page. That is very helpful. Her evaluator is Rick Starr, here to introduce us to her project.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. Tonight's an exciting night for Sandy. She's giving her icebreaker speech. As we all know, an icebreaker is of paramount importance in your career as a Toastmaster because it's the first speech you're going to give, and Sandy is the scariest. So after this, it gets better. The objectives of Sandy's speech are to get up and give her first speech, her icebreaker, and to exhibit speaking skills she already has. As Jean mentioned, Sandy's speech is 4 to 6 minutes long. Speaking to Sandy a minute or two ago, she did not yet have a title for her speech, but I'm confident she'll have one by the time she reaches the podium. Please join me in warmly welcoming Sandy Magrum.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home. My name is Sandy Magrum, and tonight I'm doing my icebreaker. And there is no title, because there were so many titles, I couldn't choose one. Do you believe in magic? So do I. I remember when I was about 8 years old, and I decided that I wanted to be a witch. I had no idea what that meant. In those days when you didn't know something, you didn't run to your computer and Google things. You walked to your encyclopedia or you picked up your trusty dictionary and you leafed through the pages and you found witch, ugly old woman who works with devil. Well, I put that desire aside. About that same time, I watched a musical. It was with Jeanette MacDonald and Nelson Eddy called Canadian Love Song. I watched it on my 12-inch black and white brand new television set with my parents. When Jeanette sang, my heart was so thrilled, it almost lifted me off the ground. And I realized in that moment, even at that young age, that that is what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to make people feel that same feeling in their hearts. The world for me was a wondrous, magical world. I was a tomboy. I was just being in life. I loved everything. I loved everyone. I even loved bugs, and especially little toads. That is until 8th grade. And in 8th grade, I came to realize that I was a girl. I started to get shoulders. I started to get breasts. I started to get hips. And worst of all, I started to have feelings for boys. It totally transformed my life from being a free spirit to being trapped in my body. I became terribly shy, extremely self-conscious. In fact, I was so self-conscious that I wore a big furry green coat most of my life, hiding my body during high school. Now, when I became a junior in high school, this fear was just right there all the time. And I thought, well, I think if I took public speaking and drama, it would get rid of that fear for me. What was I thinking? For the next 2 years, every time I stepped into those classes, I was in abject fear. That's why I joined Toastmasters. Now, I was going to say that you do not know how difficult and how much fear this exercise brought up for me. But I know that a lot of you have felt that way. But I felt so much fear. I made so many starts with all these different venues in my life that I got confused. Oh, I even almost quit Toastmasters 4 times during this process. And then I realized that I hadn't even started Toastmasters. This was my beginning. And in this whole process, I realized that I have lived a diverse, interesting, and blessed life. And that knowledge is such a gift to me, doing this whole process and coming to realize that. So I've decided that I'm not going to quit Toastmasters, at least not until my next speech. And I still have the desire to be a witch, to part the clouds, to make the flowers grow, to do magical potions. And my purpose in life is to bring joy to people and to be joy. So thank you very, very much.
Mr. Timer, would you give us 2 minutes, time us, so that we can fill out evaluations for Sandy? Thank you for that speech, Sandy. Everyone, I think, can relate to having total fear getting up here for the first time. It doesn't matter where they came from, and that's one of the reasons why we're all here, is to get over that fear and have it actually be fun, because it sounds like you'd like to have fun and enjoy also. That's what this does. Really excellent job. All right, I think at this point, we don't really have to vote for Best Speaker. Did our speaker qualify?
She did qualify.
All right, I think we know who our best speaker for the evening is going to be. With that, I'm going to hand the meeting over to our general evaluator to handle the evaluation section, at least have our evaluator evaluate Sandy. Thank you.
Good evening, Toastmasters. It's my privilege to invite Sandy's evaluator, Rick Starr, to give us his observations about that wonderful speech.
Thank you, Art, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Sandy. You know, it's a wonderful, enrapturing speech when our Toastmaster, who is normally the most businesslike, down-to-the-minute, follow-the-book person, is sitting at the end of the speech just staring at you, still with wonder in her eyes. Forgot to come up. So congratulations, Sandy. Congratulations on your icebreaker. Congratulations on overcoming your fear. As Jean mentioned, it's not uncommon for all of us when we started to overcome that fear. One comment, though, when the fear you feel is much less than what people perceive it. People perceive you as significantly, dramatically less fearful than what you're feeling inside. So if you hadn't said that, how fearful you were, nobody would have guessed it. You just look very calm. So overall, I thought it was a wonderful speech. I thought it was an excellent speech, even for an experienced Toastmaster. And I'll go through the things I enjoyed very much about it, and then I have one or two suggestions also. You have a very, well, first of all, the purpose of the speech is for us to get to know you, and we did that. You gave a very personal speech in what your early interests were, and particularly your fear of public speaking, and how you overcame that. So we did a very good job of letting us get to know you. And I think in some ways that might have been difficult to share that, but you did it very well. You have a very warm, very pleasant, very engaging voice. And all of us were really captured by it. You have a wonderful speaking voice. A very good stage presence, very natural movement during different sections. You walk from one part of the stage to the other. Very natural gestures. You talked about opening the encyclopedia. Maybe some of the younger people don't even know what an encyclopedia is. It's kind of like Google in a book, you know. Opening the encyclopedia and miming your 12-inch television set. You have very natural vocal variety, very natural dramatic pauses in your speech, and again, that was very good. You a good use of a warm sense of humor, and again, sharing your personal struggles with fear. That was overall, it was just an excellent speech, and I enjoyed it very much. One other thing you did well is you used no notes, which for an icebreaker speech is very, very impressive. Two suggestions. One, you had a slight pause during your speech. I think you were trying to remember the next thing. So a suggestion, even though you're very good at giving a speech without notes, you might just write the main points on a small card and have them with you. And that way, if you forget your place, you can see your place, where your place is. And the other suggestion, you have a very, very warm voice. I would suggest speak a little louder with a little more projection. It was kind of soft for public speaking. But a very good speech.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Rick. Now I'd like to invite our table topics master, Dan Craig, to come forward and conduct a table topics session.
How much time, Mr. President, or Madam Toastmasters? I've got 4 questions, and then about 7 more quotes that people can kind of riff on if they choose. So I can use a lot of time, but somebody just, are we trying to use 20 minutes? or?
I'll keep tabs.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, it's paramount that you understand that the purpose of table topics is for us to get up and exercise the skill of speaking off the cuff. You come up here, you find out what your topic is, you have up to 30 seconds to think about it, and then you begin speaking. And it's an entirely different process from delivering a prepared speech. The theme of the meeting was resolutions. That's the theme of my questions. It seems kind of funny to be talking about New Year's resolutions on January 20th, but that's how little we're actually committed to.
That's right.
So who is inspired to come up and give it a try? Luis.
Anybody mind timing?
I'll do it. You got it? I got it.
I've got 1 through 11.
Three.
Do you believe in making New Year's resolutions? And if so, explain why.
Exactly.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, I believe we don't have any guests. Resolutions for the new year happen, obviously, every single year. But are they followed through? For myself, I can't say that it's not necessarily what does happen. I do believe that it's exciting to write ourselves the things that we would like to achieve, getting worked up as to what kind of situations we want to get ourselves involved with, what kind of people we want to become, what environment do we want to be surrounded by. And I think that has a very precious value. I think it's paramount for our lives to have a sense of excitement in order for us to keep moving forward, to have something to motivate us to get up in the morning. Nonetheless, resolutions for the new year shouldn't be the only thing that gets us going. I believe we should have some sort of goal planning throughout the year and not allow a calendar to dictate when we should and should not start living our dreams. For instance, the past couple of years I have set myself out to be a raw foodist. And I have failed many times, not only for New Year's, but I have tried it countless of times. But I am not giving up, because this is a dream that I want to follow through, and I will not wait until December 31st of 2015 to start it up again. I'm going to try again and again until I succeed. Thank you.
Who is next? Jody Raj. One through 11, skip 3.
11.
This is a quote.
Okay.
So if you'll listen to this and give me your impression or what it brings to mind for you. He who breaks a resolution is a weakling. He who makes one is a fool.
Weak. What is weakling?
Weakling, not strong.
Okay. Weak.
He who breaks a resolution is a weakling. He who makes one is a fool. F.M. Knowles.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. Why we break resolutions? That's the question here. Because it is made on the basis of same platform, who you are. When you do the same thing, I mean, you make something. You promise to yourself doing something by yourself, and you will break it. If you want to do something, first break a being habit of yourself. First break yourself. Be somebody else. It doesn't mean that you have to do something else, but you have to think differently. If you think same thing and thought doing something else, it's not possible. Because your brain, your thought, and your mind will go to the same pattern, follow the same pattern, and you can never be there where you want to. If you say, I'll quit smoking, if you are a smoker, you will say from your mouth, but your brain will never tell you to do that. Because you are in the same thought pattern. You have the same thought. And you are doing the same thing always. So if you want to keep your resolution throughout the year, then you have to change your habit. Not the habit of smoking, but the habit of being yourself. Change yourself. Try to be somebody else. Try it. And see. You can keep your resolution throughout the year. Thank you.
We're rolling now. Who's next? Diane.
Let's see, what's my choice?
I've got 1 and 2 and 4 through 10.
4.
What is your greatest triumph in achieving a New Year's resolution? What is your greatest triumph in achieving a New Year's resolution?
Good evening, Toastmasters, viewers at home. Greatest triumph for a New Year's resolution. It isn't a New Year's resolution, but one time, I think it was around my 50th birthday, I was sitting at a table with 2 friends in town. Life was not going the way that I wanted it to. Certain expectations I had about the way things were going to be were not that way at my 50th birthday. I was really upset about this, actually. I I sat and I said, I grew up with birthdays being a really fun, happy time. And this was the first time I was not happy. And I shared that with my friends. One of the friends that was there, well, there were only 2 girlfriends. I had this one friend who just seems to be a book message person, if that makes sense. She's got the right book at the right time. So I open up my present, and there's a little book called The Abundant Book by this man named John Randolph Price. It was the book I needed. I was going to, and right then and there I made this resolution to change my financial situation. And I remember that quote of Theodore Roosevelt's, do what you can with what you have where you are. And I thought to myself, this is what I've got, a $6.95 book in my hand that says if I repeat these 10 prosperity statements for 40 days, I will change my life. I did. I did that every day with all my heart and soul. I used to walk around the streets. I am a rich, famous, or not famous. I don't know what they were. I forget now. But anyway, I marched around. I changed my life. I changed the circumstances of my life. So resolution, Mr. Tabletop Commander, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but I had fun telling you that I resolved to change something, and I did. Thank you.
Who else would like to come up? Art. I've got 1 and 2, 5 through 10. 5. 5 is a quote from an unknown author. Many people look forward to the new year for a new start on old habits. Many people look forward to the new year for a new start on old habits. Give me your impression or understanding or feeling or something about that quote.
Good evening, Toastmasters and viewers at home. Many people look forward to the start of the new year as an opportunity to make new resolutions and make changes. That's my understanding of the question. And I would say I have observed that some people do that. I don't do that. I'm not sure that I actually even believe in New Year's resolutions. If I look at my life and look at what have I done as a New Year's resolution and stuck to and actually accomplished, I don't find anything. I make resolutions to make changes, but what I'm noticing is that the ones that actually have power are where I map out, and what am I going to do today to make that happen, and what am I going to do tomorrow, and then where every day there's some action taken that keeps it on the front burner and keeps me moving towards that goal. I'll give you an example. I made a New Year's resolution in the deepest part of winter last year. I said, I have had it with these Midwest winters. No more. This is the last Midwest winter that I spent. I'm going to live at least 2 months next winter somewhere warm. I made that resolution. It was highly emotionally charged, and it had no follow-through. It was what Mary Poppins, I believe, calls a pie crust promise I made to myself. This year, I'm taking it a little differently. I still have the same disgust for dirty snow and 5 degree above zero weather and all the other glorious features of Iowa winters. But every day I am focused on what can I do today that will advance me towards next winter's trip somewhere warm for 2 months. That's the difference. I'm tired of making resolutions that didn't have follow-through. Mr.
Nice.
I think everybody in the room has a role, so don't let that hold you back. Will?
We have second table topics evaluated. Stephanie did the first 4, and Jyoti Raj will do the next 4.
And Will, since nobody's on the camera, would you
Yeah,
stand
I'll stand right here.
there?
Not a problem. I got it covered here.
We got 1 and 2, 6 through 10.
Let's go to 10.
This is a quote by Oscar Wilde. Good resolutions are simply checks that men draw on a bank where they have no account. Good resolutions are simply checks that men draw on a bank where they have no account.
Thank you, Dan, for giving me, as a quote, one of the 2 jokes I was going to tell tonight. But thankfully, I had a backup plan. I have a backup joke, so that's good. And I think that illustrates that with resolutions, it's important to have a backup plan. We certainly saw that last week with Lewis's speech, if you ever had the pleasure of seeing that. And he did a marvelous job of moving to Plan B when Plan A was not available. Personally, I do put a certain amount of stock into resolutions. For whatever reason, I don't know whether there's a direct causal relationship, but there certainly is a correlation that around certain times of the year for me, my birthday and the new year being 2 periods, I just find my attention going more inward to myself or outward to my environment. And there's more of a desire for change. There's a desire where I'm pretty much happy kind of cruising most of the time. That's the time where I really go, wait a minute. Time to take my foot off the gas here, or off the brake, and kind of look at what I'm doing. Stop cruising and actually look at what's around me, to use the driving analogy. But if you're going to do that, have a plan B.
Annette?
All right, 7. Does that mean paper?
I just marked 7 out.
Oh.
It was kind of
I mean,
stupid. You could have 1 or 2, 6, 8, or 9.
1.
Tell us how you're doing so far this year in keeping your New Year's resolutions.
What? Fellow Toastmasters and folks at home, what was the question? I'm just kidding. How am I doing on my New Year's resolution this year? Great, because I didn't make one. I don't make one. I have a love-hate relationship with New Year's resolutions. First of all, Oprah said, I don't know if you have her quote on there, but she said that the new year is another chance for us to get things right, implying that we screwed up real bad last year. And I think in a way it's negative. It's like, oh man, I meant to do this, and every year I say this, and I'm going to say it again, and whatever. So it's kind of negative. But many of you, especially you, Art, and Jyoti Raj too, have talked about it being a goal. A resolution is a goal that you want to reach this year. I was taking a teleseminar one time, and I discovered a great way to set a goal. So I want one of you in here tell me a goal that you have. Somebody.
2 months.
2 months in a warm climate next winter.
Okay, 2 months, warm climate next winter. What is the last step that you need to take to reach that goal? Let's say you've written your goal at the top of the page. This is it. What's the last step you need to take to do that?
plane ticket to go.
Yeah.
Go. What's the last step you need before you do that? What's the step before that to accomplish that?
Identify the living quarters and get them secured.
Okay. What's the step you need to do that?
Research the possible
See?
living quarters.
It's just awesome. When you do it that way, anytime you have a goal, which is what a resolution is, do that. Start with the goal and the next step and what you have to do. And I did it one time it was about money. I want to have so much money, whatever. And, well, get clients. Well, how do you do that? You know, all the way down. Until my very last step was have a positive attitude. That's my resolution, have a positive attitude.
Do we have time for one more or two more?
Keep going. Yep.
Stephanie.
Everybody in here can do too.
I've got 2, 6, 8, and 9. This is a piece of a poem by T.S. Eliot. For last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's words await another voice. And to make an end is to make a beginning.
I always loved T.S. Eliot. He was one of my favorite poets we studied at school. And in a way, I think he's right about, you know, next year is different to this year and things change. So it's hard to really plan for a year ahead because even our tastes change and our desires change. And this hit me recently, well, a few years ago. I was going through all my stuff, trying to get rid of stuff, and I discovered the things I'd written down. I did a program called Yes to Success many years ago. Did anyone else do that program? Yeah, a few of us did here. Which was, for me, a very powerful experience, and I still remember things that she said during that time about keeping $100 in your wallet and things like that to change your attitudes. Anyway, she had given us this chart, and it was, I think it was like to have, to do, and to be. So there were 3 columns, and you had to list 100 things in each one, and I didn't manage to fill them all up. So I did this when I was young, and then many years later, I'm getting this out again, and it was interesting to go through and see if I actually had achieved any of those things. So I went through, and things like home among the gum trees, which being an Australian was a pretty logical thing to want. Well, actually, I did achieve that. I had a house in the Blue Mountains, which was an interesting experience. I loved having that house surrounded by gum trees. But later on, I realized when all the bushfires kept happening and having to pack up your bags because you could burn any minute, I started to realize that I didn't actually want to live among the gum trees. And so I moved to the tropics where we only had cyclones. So I think T.S. Eliot is right. Your desires change, your goals have to change, and so the language of this year is totally different to the language of next year.
Everybody wants to come up. We can have tag team. Gene, I think that's for. I got 2, 6, and 8.
2.
What is the dumbest New Year's resolution you ever made?
You asked her that question?
Fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home, I don't think this is really a dumb resolution, but the way I went about working with it was probably not the smartest. There was a point when I was in college that I decided I was going to quit smoking. I was going to school at Duke in Durham, North Carolina, which was cigarette capital of the world. You could get cigarettes everywhere. I started smoking and doing that whole thing, and I'm gonna turn that light out. And I got going with it, and my grandfather, we went to visit them at Thanksgiving. My grandfather had advanced emphysema, had quit smoking decades earlier, but the damage was done. I'm supposed to be an intelligent individual. I'm upstairs smoking outside through the window so it won't get in the house. But of course, if you're a smoker, it does get all over your clothes. And I came down, and I remember he pulled me aside, and he just said, he didn't ask me if I was smoking. He just said, here is $100 for you to stop smoking. If you start smoking again, you have to give this $100 back. Well, $100 was a lot of money for me. Plus, I felt like a complete idiot for smoking anyway. I mean, what else do I need to have as an example? We get to Christmas, I'm with my boyfriend, I'm in Baltimore, and we're at this party. And what I realized was when you have a resolution and there's a stopping point, a cut point, you have full license to completely overindulge until you get to that point. Completely, because you know you're going to stop. And you're just going, this is it, this is it. So I smoked, and then at midnight, I stopped. But here's the thing, the way my brain works. Not such a black and white girl. I figured I stopped. When we got to finals in May, I smoked a little bit to prepare because it was either that or eat chocolates, and I didn't want to do that. So I smoked. So it's a little bit of a gray zone, but I kept the $100, and I really did stay stopped after, with a little bit of interpretation.
Time for one more. Monty. I've got 6.
Oh, it's it.
Or 8.
6 or 8. You pick.
This is a quote from Henry Moore. I think in terms of the day's resolutions, not the years.
Fellow Toastmasters, and especially Dan and Craig, you must be channeling Nostradamus tonight, because that was actually one of the quotes that I was going to pick for tonight's meeting, but I ended up choosing the Benjamin Franklin quote. So I thought it was more positive. But the quote was, I think in resolutions in terms of days, not a year. We all make New Year's resolutions. We know we struggle with New Year's resolutions. So break it down. I think that can be really effective. And what I found, I had a resolution 2 years ago. I wanted it to be a fitness resolution, and I was going to do this with my girlfriend. And I actually roped in my best friend too. And we're going to start working out. We're going to go at least twice a week, if not 3 times a week to the gym. We're going to do weights on one day. We're going to do cardio on another day. And I got thinking about it. And I'm like, the resolution is good, but I need to tie it to something else. And that's when I came across this event called the Warrior Dash. And it's this sort of obstacle course running. And it reminded me a lot of the military obstacle courses, which they put you through in basic training. Will would know too. But to regular people that, when they see pictures of people climbing these huge walls and ropes and stuff, people were like freaked. Even people that are good runners will question whether or not they can do it. It's basically a confidence builder. But I tied that event into the goal, the resolution of the fitness event. And that really helped motivate us throughout the whole year, because the event was coming in August. We knew we had to meet a minimum. We kept running, we timed ourselves, we were doing hill sprints. My friend, who would probably slack off, would show up because that event's coming up in a month and a half, and I skipped the last we could work out. I know I really have to come back and do this because we committed this for this event. And thinking resolutions of days, not the year, tie something to your resolutions. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Now, I guess it's time for us to vote for the best speaker. Everybody in the room spoke.
So everybody gets
Other
one
than Sandy
vote.
Sandy and Rick.
Everybody qualifying as well.
Did everybody qualify?
Everyone qualifies.
Holy moly.
Okay, it's everybody but Rick, Sandy, and Lewis. So look around. And me. Evaluator. And now I'm going to call up the Table Topics evaluator, who is...
I think we all enjoyed tonight's topics that Dan prepared. He selected some great quotes and some really interesting questions about something that a lot of us have probably encountered over our lives, this resolution business every year, so it was great. And the people who spoke in that I evaluated did a great job. Lewis was asked whether he believed in New Year's resolutions, and he gave us some wise advice, and he also gave a good example from his own life about his desire to be a raw foodist, and that was interesting. My only suggestion for you, Lewis, is that maybe try and think of using the stage maybe in some contrasting or dividing up your speech a little so that you get to use the stage a bit more, because I thought you stayed a little bit in one place. Jyoti Raj, you also gave us some good advice about breaking our habits. And you used the example of a smoker, which was good, but I felt like you ran out of steam a little bit. So if possible, try and choose it's not easy thinking on your feet, I can understand this, but if you can try and find an example that's got a little bit more substance to it, maybe something from your own life that might help you to, often if you find an example from your own life, you can think of more details to make it, fill it out a little bit more. Other than that, it was a really wise advice. And then Diane spoke to us, and Diane is a great storyteller, and she used really great vocal variety when she talked about walking around, talking about money or thinking these positive thoughts all the time. And that use of her vocal variety really captivated us. So the only advice I had maybe for Diane, which you can pass on to Lewis, is that that suspense a little bit of what that book was, she could have maybe built up to make it a little bit more of a climax, to the book being the solution to the problem. And then Art gave us a great speech as well when he told us how important it is to not only think about the goal, but to work out all the steps to work towards that goal. And I thought that was great advice. My advice to you, Art, was that maybe you could have used the stage a little bit more in terms of contrasting your approach last year to this year's approach, which is much more systematic. But overall, I think everyone did a great job, and I think I learned something about how to set resolutions. So thank you.
Now, if Jyoti Raj would come forward and do evaluation of the other set of speakers.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. So I'll straight go to the evaluation because I have a lot of people to do. So Will, I'll start with Will. You took a 30 seconds and thought about what you were going to speak. Fabulous. You had a very good hand gestures. You're doing inner, outer, forward, backward, all those things, and you had a very good story. The only thing I want to suggest, two things I want to suggest is, one is move a little bit. So you are standing here all the time. Maybe for the camera you are, I don't know why, but you're standing here all 2 minutes. Just move a bit. And you didn't greet the audience. Remember to greet. Okay? That's the 2 points. And you greeted the audience. You had a very good hand gestures. And you asked audience. I liked it very much. And you gave how to set a goal and how to come to the first point in the goal and how to achieve. And we learned something today. You also have to use a stage a little bit because you're also at the same place for most of the time. Stephanie, you also had a very good hand gestures. You said 3 column, all this stuff. You have $100 in your pocket. So it was a very good hand gesture, very good story. You also didn't greet the audience. You forgot to greet the audience. And you're also staying on the same place for about two and a half minutes. But at last only you moved here, saying this year and last year. So that was the only your moment I saw. So use a little bit of stage. That's only my recommendation. Gene Simonton Craig, you greeted the audience. And you have very good gestures, smoking, all the smoke on your dress or cloth, uniform, whatever it is. And then you have very good humor and very good story. The only suggestion is the same thing, and use a little bit of stage. You have a very good gestures, but this time somehow you forget to use the stage. Something like this. And Monty? So you greeted the audience. You started with a very good story. You gave a quote. You gave how you are going to select the same topic for tonight. And you gave a very good suggestion how we can tie our resolution with something that resonates to my own experience. I started to work out. It was 2012, and I saw this 5K, 5,000 meters running is there, and I started it, and within 6 months I achieved my goal, and I got the gold medal. So that how you can. So that's why that was a very good suggestion. But the same thing, use the stage a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay, since we have voted for best table topic evaluators, I'll now start calling on the role players.
We have not voted on. We have to vote.
Best evaluator.
Best evaluator.
Yes, we have to vote for best evaluator. I stand corrected.
Everyone did call it.
So evaluators have all qualified? Very good. So the 3 evaluators would be Jyoti, Stephanie, and Rick. Am I correct?
You are.
Welcome back. I'd like to now call on our timer, Luis Correal, to give us his timer's report.
Thank you. So I came in for the table topics with 1 minute and 49 seconds. Jyoti, you came in with 1 minute and 59 seconds. Diane, you came in with 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Art, you came in with 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Will, 1 minute and 26 seconds. Annette, 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Stephanie, 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Jean, 2 minutes and 27 seconds. Monty, 2 minutes and 7 seconds. The speeches, Sandy, you came in at 5 minutes and 8 seconds. For the table topics, evaluators. Stephanie came in at 3 minutes and 13 seconds. And Jyoti, exactly 3 minutes and 13 seconds as well. That's great. That was perfect. Yeah. And Rick, for the speech evaluator, you came in at 3 minutes and 21 seconds.
And what? 3 minutes and
21 seconds.
21. Thank you. report. And our grammarian, Monty.
The word of the day, I had Luis with 2 uses of paramount. Annette, I recorded 1. Gene, you used it once within just context. Rick, I also had you as using it once. I don't think I picked it up. People were, Dan did. Okay, Dan, I'll give you credit. We were really rolling at first, and then once we got to table topics, it sort of dropped off because they were so exciting. Some uses of language tonight that I noticed. Sandy, you didn't have a title for your icebreaker, but I think the way you opened it up, you believe in magic. It was very nice. You fit your speech very well. Diane, I liked your use of the phrase, my friend was a book messenger person. Art, you quoted Mary Poppins, a pie crust promise. Annette, you used, I started incorporating some New Year's things I liked about people in their New Year's table topics. You gave us the reverse goal steps. That's an interesting perspective. I liked, Stephanie, you brought up to have, to do, to be. And then you also threw out, I think this is a New Zealand or Australian, a house among the gumshoe trees.
Gum trees.
Among the gum trees. It means out in the boonies. Is that
Eucalyptus.
No, it's surrounded by eucalyptus trees.
okay? So out in the country, or the mountains, or the outback. I thought that was an interesting use of language. And that's my report.
Now, Will, if you could step forward and share the joke.
Thank you, Art. It's short, it's sweet. A New Year's resolution goes in 1 year and out the other. Boom, thank you.
I'll keep my own comments brief.
Maybe out under.
One for you. The heart gets it.
Yes, I see here Luke Hillis,
There's a
replaced by Annette, to give us the Occam's report.
All right. The New Year's resolution either is to be a better listener, either that, or you all just aren't saying, I get caught up in watching people and I don't really hear them all.
Yeah.
So I need to look down and then I can hear them. But I heard a few, Stephanie and I, a couple of you knows, Monty, a couple of you knows. I had Art with an just then. No, that was not. Repeats, I had Gene and Dan, but I don't remember what they were. I had Rick with a false start. You did one thing, Rick, that I thought was great because you said you know. But you were saying it for a purpose. You were saying, you know it's going to be a good speech when Sandy comes up, something, whatever it was you said. That's it. Otherwise, way to go.
I'll still keep my comments brief. Rick's evaluation opened with the requisite phrase for an absolutely brilliant icebreaker. If there was any way to introduce yourself more subtle and more complete than that, I don't know what it is, to share your innermost qualities so beautifully, and to do so without notes, with just very specifically beautiful hand gestures. What was I thinking? Vocal variety? It was just all of the points that you picked up, which were so beautiful. So we had an excellent paradigm of an evaluation, which focused for an icebreaker on all the things that were done well and one little minor thing that she could have improved. The next evaluator, Stephanie, had a suggestion for, there's only one person that she had a suggestion for every one of her speakers. She had an observation about their structure for for every one of our speakers. Likewise, Jyoti had, in essence, the same suggestion for every one of his speakers, but he had an observation about the things that were done well, and he suggested, because all of the speakers were speaking about New Year's resolutions and last year versus this year, he made the very intelligent observation that one could take advantage of the opportunity to use staging in the talk to distinguish last year from this year. Same observation for each. So, Annette, there was a so.
Too late. Too late.
So what we can observe is that Atkinson still has filler words to be removed. That is the observation we should go home with. And I would like to know, call on our Toastmaster to take the lecture.
Get me out of here.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I have the results of tonight's voting. Our first award, I think I'm just going to go for the top. Sandy is our best speaker. Let's have her come on up. You get a nice Brinker ribbon, and you get best speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Our best evaluator was Rick. And the winner of our marathon table topics. Now, do you have to be present to win?
No.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you need to recuse yourself. Is Diane. All right, Diane, power of attorney, whatever. All right, thank you. Had a great, really great meeting tonight. I think our president has lots of club business that he'd like to take care of with us tonight. Without further ado, let's welcome him up.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.